everyone, and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. We're so glad you joined us today. And since you might be new to my show, I just want to take a few moments to describe Connecting with Kim. I'm your host, Kim Droege. My show started in the fall of 2019 as a radio show on Sun Radio, 96.3 FM, and on Stream. And I had this wonderful opportunity from the folks at TBAE to have a cable show. And so I said, that sounds like a good idea, so let's do it. And here's how the show works. My show is a conversation between two people who are interested, engaged, and passionate about the topic they're discussing. It's an information flow from us to you. It's about people, places, and things which I think you might want to know about in order to keep up to date, informed, and living your best life in our little corner of paradise. So having said that, let's get started. My guest today, and I'm thrilled to have her on my show, is Miss April Schiff. April, welcome to Connecting with Kim.
Thank you, Kim. It's an honor to be here today with you.
It's my honor to have this legend, and when I say legend, I mean it, a woman who is known across the state of Florida and beyond based on all of her political work and political consulting work, but that's not all she's been doing. And we're going to spend some time talking to April about her journey through life. And she's also the latest recipient of the Tampa Tiger Bay Lifetime Achievement Award, and I'm very proud of her. So, as everyone knows who listens to my show on radio, and it's going to be the same format here, I always give my guests the first few moments, the first few minutes of the show to talk about their life journey thus far. April, take it away.
Well, I grew up in Tampa. I've been here since I was very young. I was the oldest of 5 children, and that was always fun because I had lots of little brothers and one sister. So I went to school here in Tampa, in South Tampa, and then I attended the University of South Florida. Many don't know I was a ballet major in college. So
a ballet major.
Of all things, right?
Yeah.
And then I came out and I worked in the legal field. I was a legal administrator for many years. And then I had an opportunity when my second daughter was born to stay home with my children for a while. So I did that until they all went off to preschool for about 6 years. I have 3 beautiful daughters, all grown and gone now. And that's when I was making a decision as to what I was going to do in life, and I volunteered on a dynamic campaign for a wonderful woman, which was County Commissioner Dottie Berger. And I was bit by the political bug, and I made a lot of great friends, and I just kept going, and I just kept being involved and accomplishing great things, and I've been doing that ever since the late 1990s when I first started.
And that must be when you met my mom and dad, because they worked on Dottie Berger's campaign.
Yes.
And I remember because I would visit them in Florida, and of course whenever I visited, I got dragged to every political event that was, you know, on the schedule. But it is funny, isn't it? Because once that political bug bites you,
there's no turning back.
There's no turning back, is there?
And opportunities just kept opening up for me, and it just kept getting better, and I've just had a great ride. It's been a wonderful, wonderful path that I've gone on, so I've enjoyed every minute of it. The best part of it all, across the board, are the people that I've met. Because in politics, there are so many opportunities to meet so many people, and some of them are absolutely awesome, and some of them aren't so awesome, but it's just the experience and having so many friends and meeting so many people that's just invigorating.
But that's kind of life anywhere, right? I mean, there's always going to be those great folks that you love and want to be around and work with, and then there's going to be those folks that you're like, well, they provide a valuable service, but I don't have to spend every moment with them, right?
Correct.
So you started on Dottie Berger's campaign, you got bit by the political bug, and what happened after that?
I worked on several other campaigns. My friend Rose Ferlita decided to run for city council against a 2-term city councilman who had done nothing wrong. There was no reason to challenge him, but she was ready. And that was a dynamic campaign. She had a huge number of volunteers, and it was just so much fun working on that race. But the whole time I knew it was going to be a tight race, very tight. And at the end of the day, on election day, she won by 1 vote. And this was in the days of paper ballots, so we had hanging chads, and they did recounts, manual recounts with the ballots. And when it was all over, she had won by 14 votes.
I love this story because I remember Rose for Lita, and I remember that campaign, and it's such a beautiful illustration of the fact that every vote counts. So don't ever think, oh, I'm not going to go vote because that person's a shoo-in and my vote's... Your vote matters. And would you agree with me that increasingly the margins are getting tighter and therefore the margins of victory are getting tighter?
They are across the board. It's trending. It's because more people are participating. It's sometimes extremely disillusioning when you look at, for instance, the number of people that vote in the city races. We have city council members that have been elected with less than 5,000 votes. And in the city of Tampa, that's just, it's unforgivable.
That's kind of shocking.
People aren't voting. They they don't vote. They don't think it matters, but it does matter. It matters so much. And those local elections really touch us closer than anything else. And I think, you know, COVID, for what it was a big opportunity for us to understand how our local governments can affect our lives more so than anybody else.
I totally agree with you. It was a perfect storm.
Yes.
But as I always say, no matter what bad thing comes your way or comes our way as a society, there will always be some good that comes out of it.
Yes, because we learn something from everything. Whether it's something bad that happens or good that happens, we still learn something, and that propels us to bigger and better things usually.
So Dottie Berger, then Rose for Lita. Okay, so take it from there.
Well, I then had someone reach out to me and invite me to join the Republican Executive Committee. And after Dottie Berger's campaign, I had walked into the Republican headquarters, which is what we at the time called the Little White House, because it was down on South Del Mabry. It was really at the front of the brickyard that Margie and Bill Kincaid owned. And Margie and Bill truly built the Republican Party in Hillsborough County. It was non-existent before the work that they put in. But I walked in there one day, I'll never forget, and it was a madhouse. People were working everywhere, and I stood there for a few minutes and I looked around and I said, well, you people could use some help. And this spry woman who I still talk to, she's a marvelous woman, Joyce Bright, looks at me and she said, and what shift will you be taking? And she signed me up right then, and it was every Tuesday and Thursday morning, and that was it. And I was working at the Republican Party, so I joined the executive committee. And Margie opened a lot of doors for me and gave me a lot of opportunities, and she was just a marvelous friend and a tremendous mentor. But one of the better things that came out of that as well was I met Ann Voss there. And Ann co-founded my business with me, and I walked in one day and Margie says, you know, I think you should go to the Republican National Convention. And I was like, normal people do that? I thought we just watched that on TV. I didn't realize it was an opportunity, but I've now been to 3 conventions, but the first one was in Philadelphia. And while we were there, Ann and I spent a lot of time together and hatched out our plan for our business, and we are still going strong. Ann has retired. And I miss her every single day very dearly because I learned so much from her, and she was just a beautiful, beautiful person with a wonderful soul.
Well, so let's back up just a second, and the name of your business is Strategic Solutions of Florida, right?
Correct.
And it's primarily a political consulting firm, right?
Yes.
And you co-founded it with Ann Voss, and I know Ann Voss. Lovely, lovely, incredibly kind, gracious.
Yes.
I can't say enough nice things about her. I met her through my parents, obviously, because they're very active in Republican circles, especially my mother.
Yes.
And I remember Margie. I remember going to that, the Little White House, so to speak. I always envisioned Margie as a person who was sort of the iron fist in the velvet glove.
Exactly. That's a perfect description.
Yeah. I mean, and when my parents moved here in 1989 to South Florida, or to South Hillsborough County, this was a completely Democratic stronghold.
Yes, it was.
I mean, every single office was Democratic.
Yes.
And I remember my mom talking about how you start with one step at a time, and then look at what you all did.
We did. We took it one step at a time, one campaign at a time, one door at a time, one voter at a time, and we worked it so hard in the 90s. It was incredible, and it was a huge team effort. I mean, it could not have been done without an army on the ground. And we took over the county commission. We had all of the constitutional offices except for one. we had Republicans on the Tampa City Council, as well as the two other city councils, which were basically majority Republican, and the majority of the House and the Senate were Republicans. None of that exists today. In the last few election cycles, we've seen it turn around. It kind of looks like an ebb and flow, but we're going to see it turn back if we all get together and work hard enough. That's kind of one of my goals, is to try and help that along as much as possible.
So you and Ann Voss got together and started this company. And then what happened after that? What did you guys get involved with after that?
We were involved in so many races, national races. We worked on the Bush campaigns, the state Bush campaigns, the national Bush campaigns. We were honored to work with Senator Mel Martinez in his first campaign, his only campaign, because he didn't run again for re-election. And tons and scores of local races, from school boards, city councils, county commissions, constitutional officers, some House and Senate races as well, but all over the state of Florida. We really like the local races, and I still prefer those myself. We've also done a lot of judicial races too. So it's just been a wide variety of a lot of fun things that we were honored to be involved in and had so much fun with. But I always like to say that the best thing about my job across the board is that my job is to help people succeed. And to me, that's just really, really fun, is to be in a position where I can do that.
Oh, that is that's an honor. It's a mitzvah. It's something that you can point to and be very proud of. At least that's the way I look at it. And I always tell people, you know, when they're talking about voting and the local races, because I want to, you know, emphasize that too. You know, a lot of judge races, because in Hillsborough County we have, you know, with closed primaries where you either have to be registered Republican or you have to be registered Democrat in order to choose the candidates for those particular offices people are running for.
Right.
But the judge races and the school board races and the nonpartisan races, anybody can vote, even if you're registered NPA. But what I try to always tell my people I come across, and you know, who say, well, my vote doesn't matter, or I don't need to vote in the primary, I say to them, you know, many a judge race is decided in the primary, right?
Yes.
And a judge can change your life with the stroke of a pen. And it may not always be in a good way that judge changes your life. So those races are very important for you to pay attention to and be knowledgeable about. And the same with the school board races.
Right.
Those people are there affecting your children and the school system and making multi-million-dollar decisions.
Right.
You need to know who you're putting in that seat.
The one thing I hear most about the judicial races from people is that they're not going to vote because they don't know who to vote for. They don't know who the judges are, what they stand for. And we do something which I think is awful to judges in the state of Florida. They have to run for office. They're not allowed to tell you what their position is on any issues. They're prohibited from raising money personally, and they can't take a stand on anything that may possibly at some point come before them in a judicial setting. And they are governed by an additional set of rules. The canons of judicial ethics specifically applies to candidates in a certain section, and they have to abide by rules that no other candidates have to abide by. So it makes it very difficult. But it also puts a burden on the voter, because the candidate can't supply the information the voter really wants. So I constantly encourage people, no matter what your party affiliation is, to reach out to your friends, talk to anybody you know who may know the judges, go online and do your research about them. There's plenty of information you can get. And you can also call the political parties. They can't get involved in the judicial races and endorse or anything of that nature, but they can educate you, because they're very well aware of the judges and who they are and where they come from and what they might be able to give back to this community. So it really, really is important. And they'll say, well, you know, they're only going to be on the county or the circuit bench. Oh, yeah, that's true.
But those are lifetime usually positions.
Well,
I mean, unless they do something really egregious.
that is true. But they also are the prime candidates for elevation into higher judicial systems.
Exactly.
So
we'll just take one little break here, because if you're just tuning in to Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network as well as Sun Radio, my guest today is April Schiff, who is the co-founder and president of Strategic Solutions of Florida, a political consulting firm, but she's also the latest recipient of the Tampa Tiger Bay Lifetime Achievement Award. So we'll get back to that in a few minutes. But you're right. You know, judicial races are extremely important. They deserve the time and attention. I agree. I think it's onerous, some of the rules that are put upon the candidates, because, like I said, they're making life-altering decisions on a daily basis. They're usually there for life, although we have seen in recent judicial races, we have seen some pretty odd turnover.
Yes.
But on top of that, like you mentioned, they are the stepping stone to something even greater,
Right.
where they're making even more life-altering decisions.
Yes,
Right.
definitely. Definitely.
Well, we've talked about a lot of your political work, but let's talk about your involvement with Tampa Tiger Bay Club here in Tampa, because I'm also a member and on the board right now, thanks to you, and it's really been a great experience. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I love Tiger Bay. I really do.
We probably should explain where Tiger Bay is.
Yeah, so Tampa Tiger Bay Club, there are Tiger Bay clubs all over the country. They are not joined under any big umbrella. They're all independent. But the Tampa Tiger Bay Club has been in existence for quite some time, 40 years.
40 years, we're celebrating our 40
years this year. I first joined, I think, around 2000, and a friend of mine kind of twisted my arm to come onto the board, and that was Irene Guy, and she was the president at the time. So I got on the board in 2004 or 5, I think, originally, and Tiger Bay was suffering then. We were not in the best of shape financially. We didn't have that many members, and so a group of us got together and decided we were going to turn this thing around, and we started drumming up members, and we started working to work off the debt that we were in, and we put together a plan and we executed it, and I served as president for I think 3 years, which somehow they did some monkey stuff to get me to stay longer, and it was great fun. I loved it. But we did turn it around, and today it has, I think, close to 300 members, and it's thriving, and we pull in, you know, fantastic speakers and have these fabulous debates and conversations on issues. And during the election cycle, I love the fact that most of my life and involvement is involved in Republican politics. So Tiger Bay gives me an opportunity to see both sides, because it's in most of the Republican settings I'm in, we don't have Democrats show up. They're not allowed to speak at the Republican clubs and things of that nature. So to me, it's enlightening to go to Tiger Bay where we have both sides there. So we have Democrats and Republicans that can debate each other and really take each other on the issues. So it's really good for me to see both sides of the story, so to speak. But I think the fun part of Tiger Bay is the challenge that we give to our members, and that is who can ask the toughest question of our participants.
Let's just take a moment. For those of you who are not familiar with Tampa Tiger Bay Club, it is a club made up of, I would say, people who are engaged, active, and passionate about the political process. And we come together one time a month for a monthly luncheon, usually on the third Friday of every month. And we have either a guest speaker or a guest panel, or, you know, different iterations, a program. So we start, everybody starts filtering in about 11:15. We start the program at 12 and we're over by 1. And it's just, like you said, an opportunity for Democrats, Republicans, and now an increasingly number of NPAs to come together and break bread and listen and ask questions. So you were alluding to the Garfield Award. So we have this little stuffed tiger, and only members can ask questions, and we have a Garfield committee made up of 3 people, and we try to get a Democrat, Republican, and an NPA, I always like to see on there. And we, that panel, the audience asks questions, and then that panel decides who asked. I don't like to say the toughest question. I view it more as who. I think it should be the person who asked the question that elicited the most response, or the best explanation, or generated the most conversation about the question. But they are tough questions.
Yeah, they are. And the interesting ones to me that I've seen in the past, I always like it when somebody asks a question that pretty much stumps the panel and nobody can answer it. And I've seen those guys win too, so it's kind of a mix, but it's really kind of cool. But the bulk of the meeting is designed to be Q&A between the members and the panel, and that makes it really stimulating.
Yeah, we allow the speaker or the panel, who's ever on it, to make some kind of opening statement, if you will, and share a few thoughts. But we launch right in usually to, okay, the audience wants to ask questions, and people have got their questions prepared, right. And we get into it, and people, my mother was a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019, thanks to you and others. And I remember sitting there at the dinner, and I said to my mom, we're sitting at your table, and I'm sitting there with my mom, and I said, "Are you a member of this club?" And she says to me, "No." And I said, and she said, but I've been to this club several times. And I looked at her and I said, "Well, don't you think we ought to become a member of this club?" So, boom, the next day, I was signing us up, and said, we're going to be members of this club.
And we're glad that you did. And you know what? That's part of the Lifetime Achievement Award thing. We've done it now for 6 years. We've had some amazingly distinguished winners of that award. It's incredible. But one of the goals of doing that was to open up the club to new people. So when you honor we do each year a Republican and a Democrat, they all bring their supporters in. And some of those supporters have never heard of us, they've never seen us, and so it really does spread the word about how great Tiger Bay is, and it's helped us grow.
Well, there you go, because, I didn't know anything about Tampa Tiger Bay Club till my mother became, and she said, "You're invited to go along with me," and I was like, okay, great, sounds like a good thing, and watched the proceedings that night. My mother was honored with Pat Frank, and when my mother told me who the fellow honoree was, I said to her, "This is going to be a sellout. I mean, this is going to be great," because Pat Frank is so popular, and my mother and Pat Frank had been friends for years, so it worked out great. And I talk about Tampa Tiger Bay no matter where I go.
And I think we should say, your mother is Dee Williams, who was long time the Republican queen of Sun City Center, and she pretty much ruled that place as well. She had the largest club in the country, the largest Republican club in the United States of America down there.
It was 1,000 members.
It was incredible what she could do.
Yeah,
incredible.
She did that for 25 years. She was a force to be reckoned with, and I'm personally very proud that she's can say that she's a lot of people, from judges all the way up to the White House, were elected because of her efforts.
And they will all thank her graciously. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Well, let's just shift, because we got about maybe 4 or 5 minutes left in the show. So I want to talk to you about your thoughts, any other thoughts you want to share, or maybe we want to talk about where races are headed now, trends that you're seeing, anything like that from your political consulting activities.
Well, the one thing that's definitely trending is we're seeing every day more and more MPAs. The state of Florida has long been a Democratic stronghold, and just this year the Republicans took over on voter registration. We're over 130,000 positive Republicans across the state of Florida. That is not the case in Hillsborough County. We are gaining ground in Hillsborough County, and I think at this point we're approaching the 50,000 mark. We were about 20,000 more than that, about 70,000 off between the difference between Republicans and Democrats. But even though we're seeing more and more MPAs, one thing that we have learned, I know when all these people started moving to Florida in the last few years, we were having like something between 1,000 and 1,500 people a day that are new residents in the state of Florida that are moving here. And there was a lot of talk about the fears of what politics they were bringing with them, and what we have learned over the last year is that the majority of those people are coming here because of the conservative policies in the state of Florida, and they are registering as Republicans pretty much across the board, resoundingly. So we're going to continue to see a Republican trend in voter registration, and I know the Republican Party, as well as quite a few other organizations, are working really, really hard on voter registration here in Hillsborough County. I have a political committee that I've been pushing along those lines, and we have made great strides with the new registrations of the new people that have come here, so it's very encouraging.
Well, the bottom line is that we have to find a way to get along. I mean, and we have to work together to accomplish the best we can for the citizens and taxpayers of not only the county we live in, but the state that we live in. And I know they're coming, because I'll tell you what, you see them on I don't care what road you drive on in Hillsborough County, you see all these license plates, and you know they're coming.
Right.
And just the amount of development and building that's going on. So we'll have to see how this pans out, but you know, I'm a great believer. My father always used to say this to me, and you know, my daddy was such a great strategist.
He was.
The pendulum always swings, and you're never going to stop that. It's going to swing
Right.
back and forth. It would be nice if it would somehow landed in the happy medium, but that never happens.
No.
Yeah.
No. But as long as we're all learn to be civil to each other and get along and respect each other's opinions, I think things will be better in the world.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we should spend just a few moments on that, is that civility is sorely lacking across society, but and particularly in political discussions. And I think you agree with me that the anonymity, and it's really not that anonymous, but social media has sort of fostered that whole and contributed to that whole of, I'm not looking at you, so I can say anything I want.
Exactly. Exactly. It's sad. It really is sad. I mean, I always told my children, never put anything on there that you wouldn't say to somebody if you were looking them in the eye. And there's a lot of adults that need to learn that lesson.
Listen up, people. All right. Well, we are out of time. I could sit here and talk to you all day. I've known you for so long, and I think you're just a delightful, wonderful woman. And I'm so proud to know you, and I'm so proud of you. But that's really all we have time for. So I want to thank my guest on Connecting with Kim today, April Schiff, who is the co-founder and president of Strategic Solutions of Florida and the latest winner of the Tampa Tiger Bay Lifetime Achievement Award. So that's all we have time for today. I want to encourage you to join us again next week, when we will have another edition of Connecting with Kim, and we are always populating our show with interesting folks who are going to inform you and keep you living your best life in our little corner of paradise. Bye-bye.